Zoom to us today, so I will do my best to chair this meeting in his absence. As we always start every meeting, we are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Which is right here behind. Oh, okay. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag, States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. So 7 o'clock on our agenda tonight, we have Mr. Cupfer. Good to see you.
Hey guys, how's everybody doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Good to hear your voices.
And we have Amy Questle here from KP Law, and they're here to discuss our DHCD MBTA guideline update. Take it away, guys.
Excellent. So Amy, if it's all right with you, I'll just start and please fill in any of the blanks that I may miss. So a few months ago, Amy and I were before this board discussing the new legislation that was coming across Eastern Massachusetts. So this is what's now commonly known as Section 3A of the Zoning Act. And this speaks to adding multifamily housing requirements in MBTA communities. And so MBTA communities are a defined term, and Bellingham is within the legislation as what's known as an adjacent community. And so that's important because there's certain designations and requirements that come with an adjacent community. And it's essentially exactly what it sounds like. Section 3A of the zoning now requires multifamily housing near transit stations in order to try and curb the housing crisis here in Massachusetts. And so the intent obviously is to put housing in areas in which it does not overburden the transportation network. And so the thought was putting it near, again, transit stations. As you guys well know, Bellingham does not have a transit station. We are over a half a mile from the Franklin transit station, but yet we are defined as an adjacent community. And so since the last time we were here talking about this, the state took public comment, including comment from communities, and many communities out our way really issued the same comment in that, furthering dense housing that doesn't abut transit really is exacerbating sprawl. Unfortunately, that didn't really alter the legislation and the policies that were put forward. So we have the updated guidelines from DHCD for your understanding. My understanding is you have the packet that was provided to Hillary, kind of going over the different sections. So if I could just real quick go over the different aspects of it. Again, Bellingham is an adjacent community, meaning we don't have transit, but we are nearby transit. The original legislation or the original guidelines stated that housing or zoning for this dense housing needed to be as close as possible to transit, really. And now as an adjacent community with no transit, that requirement has gone to the side. So now when we're thinking about dense locations for housing, we're not regulated to a very specific area of town, which may be beneficial, and we can get more into that in a little bit. Let's see. So the requirements now for an adjacent community such as Bellingham is, in fact, a minimum land area district of 50 acres. That's a pretty sizable area of land that now needs to be designated for multifamily housing. And that multifamily housing needs to be able to accommodate no less than 750 units. So thinking about it, I mean, the Curtis that just is going up now, oh shoot, I believe it's just under 300 units. So that's half the size of what we're talking about, a little less than half the size what we're talking about here. So 50 acres, 750 units, those are the minimums. That's something, you know, Bellingham really hasn't dealt with in the past and really weren't contemplating until this new legislation was passed. So with that, now we have a requirement through this legislation, through the Zoning Act, that as an adjacent community, we now need to put forward a zoning district in the community that adheres to those minimums of 50 acres and 750 units, no less than. And we have a requirement that by the end of January, this January 31st, 2023, that we at least have an action plan. We have an understanding of what our next steps are. We don't necessarily need to define where and how. Well, we do need to define somewhat conceptually as how. Are we going to create an overlay district? Are we going to put it in our zoning chart? What have you? We can. It doesn't state it, but I don't believe we're going to be formally bound to that. But we need to at least give the state an understanding that we're thinking about it and we're processing how we're going to establish this zoning district. The legislation states that by December 31st, 2024, we will have that zoning in place. So that means by that fall town meeting, we need to have a vote of the town to establish this district. I will note it doesn't have to be just one district. I believe the regulations say it can't be less than 5 acres of contiguous land, so you can break it up into multiple districts. However, nevertheless, it all adds up to a minimum of 50 and a minimum of 750. So that's kind of the bare bones of what the state has put forward. Right now, the requirements, if you don't adhere to it, you're not eligible for many state grants, such as MassWorks, that I know Bellingham has been very successful on in the past, and other grants. And in talking to those in the industry, it sounds like, you know, that the impacts of not signing up or not adhering to this will only get greater. So I certainly recommendation is to really give this some serious thought. Obviously, you know, I'm here, Tim Icardi is here, Amy Quessel's here. We can certainly provide technical guidance in order to adhere to this legislation. And with that, Amy, if there's anything else that I missed, I'm happy, or please fill in the blanks, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
No, thank you, Jim. No, the only thing I would clarify is that with the 750 units over 50 acres, we come to 15 units per acre, which is the original intent of the Housing Choice Act. And again, the August 10th, 2022 guidance that was put out by DHCD does address the issue as to whether we can separate that into separate zoning districts, which is a benefit, because at first we thought it was all going to be, we have to find 50 acres somewhere that are all together. And we no longer have to do that. And then the only other thing is, well, there's two other things. The next one is that DHCD is supposed to come out with these workbooks or worksheets for each town, which that's going to help us somehow implement this this section 3A. They haven't done that yet, so we are waiting for them on that. The action plan that has to be filed by January 31st of 2023 is a form that we fill out from the DHCD website. So, you know, when it says action plan, you know, we all thought it was going to have to be this, you know, 4-inch thick thing, and it doesn't. It's basically, it's a form that we fill out. It still obviously requires work on the part of the town, but not as bad as it could be. And then the final thing is that there has been a lawsuit filed, just very well. The lawsuit was filed last week, and we have not, against the town of Rockport, Department of Housing and Community Development, and the Attorney General on behalf of the legislature for passing this this act. And we haven't been served with we do represent Rockport, and I do serve as land use for Rockport. We haven't been served with the complaint yet. And unfortunately, when it was scanned in to the court online docket. It was scanned in every other page. So it's very difficult to read, but there is a group that is challenging this legislation. I don't see that challenge going anywhere. That's just my opinion from reading every other page of the complaint, but it's just something to note. And again, if anything comes of that, obviously we will give you an update on that, but it's just a new development.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Can you hear me? So, Jim, has the planning board and zoning board met, or are they aware of this legislation, and what actions have they taken? Have they start to identify different areas of land? Has that work started?
So the boards are aware of the legislation, but they have not met and convened on priority locations. I think the first step was to speak with the select board,
Okay.
give you an understanding of the legislation and any direction or guidance that that you may have, and we could certainly speak with our land use boards following this.
Okay.
Probably one of the things, as Amy said, DHCD is going to be coming out with guidelines to assist us with this process. I don't think we want to be at the forefront of rezoning. I think we want to see how it goes, and maybe there'll be some extensions, who knows? But I think probably looking at, obviously in January, we'll submit the action plan that we need to submit, put together a small committee maybe with representatives, but ultimately it's going to be recommendations to town meeting on either creating an overlay or creating a new zoning district, and looking at a couple of parcels in town in cooperation with the landowners. But Amy, this is going to be a huge coup for certain property owners. It's not like 40B where you've got to give up a certain number of parcels and sell them at cost or less than cost. This is taking 20 or 30 acres from a particular property owner and obviously making it worth a whole heck of a lot more than it's probably worth at the moment. Is that right?
Correct. Correct. And one of the things that I failed to mention was the town of, in the lawsuit that I had mentioned, the town of Rockport is named because they're claiming it was spot zoning to benefit the property owners from that overlay. It was an overlay. The town meeting designated an overlay. They are a transit community, so right at the train station. So yeah, it would.
So we could
potentially.
Yeah, we may very well be in a situation where we have property owners coming forward saying, why not my property and something? Maybe we can sell licenses or something, Amy, you know? We can...
And Dennis, I will say, and you probably have gotten the same interactions with some landowners who have caught wind of the legislation, have already reached out about it. And, you know, my discussions today is simply, you know, we need to speak with the leadership at town first and do our proper planning procedures, and we'll get back to you.
There won't be any shortage of property owners looking, not 50 acres, but as Amy said, it can be it can't be less than 5 acres. So certainly there's a lot of potential sites in town, but I hate to be at the forefront of this thing in case it evolves. But I would suggest that, you know, in the coming year, we have to have something adopted by November of 2024. That's 2 years from this town meeting. I think certainly in the spring, we should look at putting a committee together and start talking about it, directions, ideas, once the DHCD guidelines are out. But without those guidelines, we're kind of just taking, you know, the regulations as they're promulgated and just listening to property owners coming in saying, you know, I'll do that.
So if I may, one of the things that, or a couple of things that some towns or municipalities are considering to help them with the overlay or the rezoning is the master plan and the open space plan. So since you guys and even a housing production plan, and you guys have these things, so you do have tools in place. So if you did, you know, create like a subcommittee to get on this and get ahead of this in the spring, they would be able to look at those plans. And then also I would agree, we don't want to be the first people to, we don't want to be the first municipality to start rezoning and, having overlays. We can, we'll see. Again, we were told at one seminar, I was told that the worksheets would be done by September 30th. So we haven't seen those yet. So we'll see if there's going to be extensions, et cetera.
Is there an opportunity to leverage this to go to Rod Walkie and Bonvy and say what's taking Bonvy so long to develop the course, and if he's not going to, tell him we're going to take back the zoning for this purpose?
Those are certainly things that could be
Well,
discussed.
if it moves Bonvy along to
Yeah.
accelerate the development, or we're going to intercede.
And do these have to be new construction? Like,
Yeah.
we've got the Curtis Apartments that are not fully done yet, but that's clearly over 5 acres.
Yeah,
Can we
so-
not include that?
So it's interesting. So the Curtis Apartments, I don't believe meet the zoning requirements. So we're talking about a fairly dense development here. This is 15 units per acre. So that's actually denser than what you see there over at Curtis, I believe. But no, and Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe you can consider those that are currently under development or have been developed. I believe it's for new development and zoning that allows for new development of that density.
Right. It's really getting the zoning in place. And so this isn't a situation like with 40B where we need to get to 10% on the SHI. We really just have to have the zoning in place, and then we're in compliance. The other thing that is not necessarily clear, because it's mentioned that the land that's affected by 131 section 40 and Title 5, so wetlands and Title 5, whether that actually counts as as being part of the density of the 15 units per acre. And those are things that still need to be fleshed out.
Yeah, because interesting, obviously, we have very limited sewer capacity. So that would certainly have a factor. I suppose there's on-site treatment and things like that. Just because you create the zoning doesn't necessarily mean that somebody's going to be able to do anything with it.
Right.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, Mr. O'Connell.
It's way outside the box here. Any way we collaborate with neighboring towns on this? And share land?
So I believe what the land that needs to be designated must be in our community. That doesn't mean we can't speak with our neighbors and maybe plan accordingly, though we don't have good track record of planning with our neighbors. But I did reach out early on with Franklin when this was coming forward. Last I heard from Franklin, they thought they were in compliance with their downtown zoning right there on Main Street. But yeah, we certainly could talk to our other neighbors and see what their thoughts are and what they're doing.
Thank you.
I got
Any
a
other
question.
questions?
Yeah.
Sure.
Jim, this can be anywhere in town, that the new zoning?
Yes, so with the updated regulations, yes, it can be anywhere in town that allows for those minimums. So yes, it no longer has to be within proximity of the train station.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Jim or Amy? All right, no other questions. So I guess the
Maybe we'll talk.
next step will be to wait for the workbook to come out so we can actually start seeing things. Yeah,
Maybe we'll see them again. We'll see Jim and Amy again in January.
before January 31st.
Absolutely, yeah, we'll have a draft action plan ready for you by
Yep.
then.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank
Jim and
you.
Amy.
Thank
Have
you.
a great night.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Okay, so next up on our agenda, we're going to start reviewing our capital items for fall town meeting.
Just by way of introduction, I mean, we've obviously been working on this for months. Mary's been spending a lot of time meeting with departments as I have. And these projects, as you know, the articles are sponsored by the select board, and we want to make sure the select board is up to speed on what the capital improvements committee's been doing. I know you're on the capital improvement committee, what the finance committee is doing, and actually they've all been heard by capital and FinCom, all these projects that are coming forward tonight. With that as an introduction.
Perfect. Do we want to start with Bernadette?
Was that still the hot seat?
That is still.
There's no microphone, so I was a little like.
It's all about your head. You brought up pretty fancy now.
We're very high tech.
Okay, so, good morning, afternoon, whatever it is. It's evening now, isn't it?
It's evening.
Tim is working with us to get quotes on this project. So when COVID hit, we realized the importance of being able to do some things outdoors. And people really love going to things that are outdoors when the weather is nice. So kind of modeled after what the senior center did, we thought it would be a good idea to have an outdoor space at the library. What we've come up with is that we think it would be used at least 2 times a week for library programs, possibly more. I mean, obviously, it's somewhat weather dependent. The vision is it's going to have a roof but not be enclosed. So as long as it's not raining sideways, you know, even if there's kind of a day like today, you probably could still do some of these things outdoors. We see us doing, you know, after school craft programs, preschool story times, book clubs. And it could also be an area that is open to reservation by community groups. So when people reserve our community room or our meeting rooms, they go online and reserve, and this could be another space. So when it's not being used by the library, it could be a space that could be used by community groups for outdoor meetings, which I think is at the size. Tim was 20 by 30, I believe. So we have to figure out what the what the capacity would be for a number of people. But the vision is it's an open kind of a deck space with a roof, ceiling fans, which I fear keeps the bugs away, and lights. And then on the edge of it, a perimeter where people could sit. So it would be like a bench or on the edge so the adults could sit, and then probably an indoor outdoor carpet that we could put down on the floor that the kids could sit on when we're doing programs. Or if we're doing programs for other kids, we just bring out tables and they can sit on the edge and do the craft stuff right in that space. So that's the vision of how we see it being used.
10 by 20 or 20 by 20?
Tim, what was the?
It's 20 by 30, that's a typo.
20 by 30.
Okay.
Right. That's what I thought, it was 20 by 30.
Does anyone have any questions? I heard this at Capitol, so I asked my questions already. But if anyone else has any questions, we can entertain that now. I think it's a great idea. This space, especially the library, is used so much that this is
We're
definitely a well-needed.
Like I said, we're back to 85% of attendance pre-COVID, so we're getting there. And we have after school numbers, like between 2 and 3 o'clock, there's 71 kids coming in the building. So it's, you know, that's an average between 50 and 70 kids every day after school. So we're back to almost back to normal.
Yeah.
Is this a trend in libraries? I mean, I'm not familiar with anyone else doing this.
So years ago, Walpole actually has an outdoor where people that are building new buildings are putting in outdoor spaces. Shrewsbury just did one when they did their building. People that are building new buildings are definitely doing outdoor spaces.
And we do have outdoor space that we use at the town common.
Right.
But this would be right there.
Bernadette,
Yes.
I think it's a great idea, but will you need to add staffing to if children are outside?
Well, our vision is it's only open to when we're doing library programs there. And I think if it is gated, we can make it so it's not accessible when we don't want. Yeah, because we don't want a bunch of kids just obviously hanging around there with unsupervised. That's not a good plan either.
No, I agree. And I'm just thinking that, you know, as it catches on and there's nobody out there, you know, kids are going to be going there hanging out, and someone will have to be constantly going out there either to get them into the library or move them along. I mean, I'm for it, but I think you need to think about in your budget, staffing. So somewhere along the line, you got to figure out in a line item to get some staffing if this goes through. I think it'll be difficult for your staff to manage that outside activity.
We're already actually doing it because whether or not we
Okay.
have a space for them to sit, the kids are still outside the building, you know?
Okay.
Half of our battle is like, you can't, you know, you can't sit in that parking space because someone's gonna, we're kind of having to have to do it already, and we do the best we can, but yeah, it is. Outside the building is always an issue in the afternoon, regardless of whether it's staffed, we're just dealing with, someone will come in and say there's a bunch of kids hanging around and then we go and deal with it. I definitely don't have the staff to be patrolling. We deal with when we hear of things or, we hear screams coming from outside and you, you go tend to it, but
Well, and that's not your job anyway.
yeah, but if it is our space, if it is a library space, that's a different thing. That
And
would
if you
be,
can close it, like you said, or gate it off so kids can't access it when there's not an actual program going on, I think
Right.
that's fine.
that's my plan. It's a gate that we can lock and then we unlock when there's a program. And it's gonna be, they'll get to it through the exit of the children's room door. It's an emergency door now that would become a regular door. They'll go through that door to access it, and then from the other side, there'll be, I think from the parking lot, we'll have a gate where people can just get in directly from the parking lot.
So when we do that, are we gonna be needing more parking space for the library, or it needs to be reworked?
It's just moving some current programming out to us. We already really could use more parking spaces regardless of this project. Parking is and it's not really library parking at this point. It's school events on the field that are parking in our spaces. So what we try to do is if we have a big event going on, I usually communicate with Mike and tell him we need to make sure the message gets out to those people that we need to lock this day for whatever library event is going on. We don't mind sharing our space when we're not busy, but it is hard sometimes when we have, we have something going on that we expect 60 people at, and then there's something on the field also. It's already a challenge. So and this wouldn't be adding new programs. It would just be relocating it literally when we has.
Right, any other questions? And this is the only request for library for this year, correct? Yes. Do I have a motion?
It's just a matter of whether the board wants to vote on each department, or if you want to wait one vote at the end to support the capital article.
Last time we did this, we discussed waiting to see what the cumulative that dollar value is as opposed to individual, because whoever goes last, if there was the opinion that we were short money.
We have it all.
Okay.
Yep.
No,
And it is accounted for. Everything that's being presented tonight is in budget.
So is the pleasure of the board then to wait and do it all at the end?
I just have one question, Ray. Of the amount that's being requested that we spend, how much extra money is in the budget after doing that?
Based on the capital items that we're talking about here. So, it's an interesting question. All right, so the funding source for all of these items that we're going to talk about tonight, outside of the enterprise funds, are being proposed to be funded through free cash. Free cash is currently being certified right now with the state, so the exact dollar value is not available. However, based on what I've submitted to the state, I am confident that we are able to fund all of the items that are being requested. In addition, there are some articles on the town meeting warrant, so outside the scope of the capital program, that will also be funded with free cash as the funding source. And so taking those two into consideration, the remaining funded and also projecting an allocation for snow and ice deficit, right? Because we typically fund that with free cash. All of those things being taken into consideration, Michael, the remaining balance would be just under 700,000.
And that's lower than what you and I talked about, what we wanted to carry.
It is slightly lower. I would, a minimum of 500,000, which was our conversation last time. So it's higher than the minimum threshold. I would like to see us at about $1 million. But what we're doing here is we are addressing some key projects that have been on our radar. Some of them have been on for multiple years, and the town has just not had the funding available to take it to pursue those projects. And given the climate right now, we are able to finance those and proceed with these projects.
I guess the only reason I say that is that if all the departments have vetted it, why are we going to say no to any of these? I mean, it's expedite process.
Yeah, I think the important thing is you're sponsoring the article before town meeting. You don't want to be seeing it for the first time and it's being read.
Right.
In town meeting.
Yeah.
So does it make sense to vote on each then, instead of waiting?
It's up to the board whether or not you want to vote to support the article as a whole or individually.
I'd prefer that we just wait. I prefer we just wait until the end.
Okay, then we'll wait until the end. Vote on the article. All right, then you guys are all set. Thank you. Hi, guys. You're up.
Hey.
Thank you, Chief, for coming in.
They might still, they should, they have to vote. I mean, just focus on the two.
Right. Should have a pack, 2 cruises, that's our request for this town meeting.
Yep.
I'll kind of explain the particulars of what we're doing and how we're going about it, and if there's any questions, we'll go from there. Good evening. We're asking for 2 cruiser replacements. I believe we're replacing existing cars. One will be a 2022 police utility gas model, and one will be a 2022 police utility hybrid. They're both replacement vehicles that will have higher mileage.
Then eventually to get us closer to the majority hybrid, or sure that's.
Yeah, I mean, the state police are exclusively going with hybrids the last couple of years. They won't buy anything else other than hybrids right now. So the first generation, which state police are telling me was the 2020 were horrible. 2020, 21. 2020, 2021, second generation, 2022, third generation are unbelievable. They have no problems with them and stuff like that. So that's kind of why I'm venturing to try them out now.
This is consistent with the fleet replacement program that's been in place.
We're good to sit and watch and see how things develop. And when you dive right in, so you get some good positive feedback. So it's time to try it.
We all get equipped for the charging stations at the police station, right? For the.
These are hybrid, these are gas. Gas and.
I asked the same question at the
I was thinking it.
Yeah.
That's
Let me
I've already researched. That's a whole new.
So these aren't plug-in hybrids, then they're just your standard hybrid. Okay, great, thanks.
That's what I think when we think hybrid, we think electric.
Yeah.
And then that's. So what does it mean? Am I dumb?
Gas hybrid, so
Yes.
gas battery.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
so when it runs, it actually charges the car.
Right. Exactly.
Yes, and you start and then stop and then.
So when the batteries are topped off, the car will be silent, it will be out. It will only put on the gas engine to recharge the batteries.
Gotcha. Thank you.
It'll cut down on the idling time, I believe. The idling is what kills the cars. Every hour of idling is equivalent to 33 miles driven. So, and the majority of the vehicles, they have high idle time because you got the computers and the radar and all that stuff. So,
That's great. And how would you like, you're going through a different,
yeah, we went with a different vendor. We have one more
Vendor
car
now, yeah.
with MHQ. MHQ is unfortunately just destroying the company right now. So, they're not customer friendly right now. So we're trying out CMG, which is Colonial Limited Group.
and so far experience has been okay. I mean, we don't have any cars.
They've
yet, but
been
it's-
unbelievable. We had a car that was totaled about a month ago. And I didn't even get back to my office and the salesman was on the phone with me saying, I got 3 gas. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He says, you just had a car total. I have 3 gas. I'm like, okay, save me one. So it was crazy.
That's great.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, easiest meeting, huh?
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Have a good night. Next up, Mr. Moran on the school department.
What you get to look forward to in your next meeting.
No. you for having us tonight.
I think
I have just a quick question for Mr. Morano before we get started. Mr. Morano, when you were here, when you were with us last, you went through a number of these items. So is there anything that's new added to this list that you didn't cover when you were here providing us with an update? Or is it still the same?
I think there's some new items on here.
There are? Okay, thanks. Because I know you reviewed a number of
Yeah.
items with us.
Yeah, there's some new items on here.
Okay,
On the first page, all the items are there, though, so if you.
yeah, I see that. Thank you. That's a nice summary.
Okay.
So I don't know if everybody knows, Doug is our new maintenance director. And he's been working really hard putting together, along with Judy Simpson, the capital requests and. All
right. So we have 8 capital requests on the sheet there. First being KMA boiler. We are looking to go towards heat pumps, mini split system over at KMA. We have sheet there that shows us NV5 shows 3 options, and we looked a little deeper and we get together with Complete Energy Services, and they got us a system over there. The final cost of $162,500. So we were at about $800,000 road cost. We got it down to $162,500. And then with the backup generator of $135,000, we're at $297,500. And that's with a substantial rebate included in that, right? Yeah, $81,250 in rebates coming from the energy companies.
It'll be a total electric system, and so no gas.
So based on current, I know you did an analysis based on current utility rates. I know we can't project. It actually showed a net savings over what we were paying for gas to run the furnace as opposed to what we'll potentially be paying for electric. Correct. And that's, the equation that we got from Complete Energy Services. We ran the numbers and that was the numbers we got was about $6,000, over $6,000 savings. Obviously, electric rates are going up, but you can predict.
right.
Great savings. I mean,
Yeah.
the other proposals were significantly higher and a great option.
Yeah, we get lucky, we found the right people and the right phone calls were made. This one person gave me a contact and that contact turned into gold, so it was good. We know if they're on the state bid list? They are not. So we will have to bid it. We'll have to bid it and, or is it exempt because it's a school energy project? So it is exempt, but we have to wait for the $300,000 threshold to come into play, which is in November. Okay. Yeah. But right now, we have a temporary heat down there. The trailer was brought in Saturday, and should be hooked up this week.
How quickly, if this is approved at town meeting, can
Yeah.
this get done?
So, he told me, Mr. Duffy told me, give him a month to do the project. So he's already ordered in hold. So he doesn't have to pay for things, but I think he's got a contract with these companies and he's ordering things in hold. So we'll have stuff for us when it does come.
Okay, perfect.
So you can get done somewhere around December, like in mid-December.
Hopefully, yes.
Awesome.
All right, next.
Next,
We have Fallbrook and DePietro and Trapping areas. We currently have Trapping areas at all other schools in town. We do not at our elementaries. So our Trapping areas, as we know, small areas in the lobby of the schools that cut down on traffic of people entering the building when you can drop something off for a child or we also have our Raptor system, which tells us, gives us an idea if that person shouldn't be in the building. So these entrapment areas are going to make the schools a lot safer.
This is one item I did discuss at the last. time.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Anyone have any questions on this? Move on.
Okay, next will be security cameras at both Stallworth and DePietro. Currently, we do not have them. We have them at all the other schools. They help give us good information and real-time information for our rescues, fire and police going to the building. If there's anything happening, they know where it is. They'll have an understanding, and we'll be sharing that information with them so that we can get to a problem and maybe save lives. All right, next will be 3M window film. So we looked at all the schools to put a 3M window film. What it is a film that goes on the inside of the windows. There's a special caulking that goes on to hold that film in place. It makes it an easily penetrable piece of glass into almost impenetrable piece of glass with, a regular human being. It can be shot through, but it stays in place. So it'll take a lot for someone to actually get through that window. So these would raise that level of security in our schools. That would be 9 feet up in any of the building. Okay, so obviously some of our schools have a lot more glass than others. So you see that difference in price in your packet.
Visibility remains unchanged.
Yeah, visibility can remain unchanged, but they also they'll tell you that you'll get your energy savings, and it should pay for the glass within a 3 to 5 year period. But some of the sides that have we have sun, we're looking at putting a tinted glass so that we can have those energy savings.
Are there other districts that are doing this? I haven't heard of.
Yeah, there are.
Before, and it seems like a smart idea.
We actually have it in our current entrapment areas. So it's something that, maybe we didn't know, but when we did some research after the fact, they're all filmed.
Hey, Doug, can I ask I'm sorry.
Yep.
So you said, I'm just trying to get an understanding where this is going on all the glass. On the gymnasium, the high school gymnasium, you have that glass at the top of the walls. It probably won't go on there, correct? And I'm asking it because it's a follow-up question. And I'm sure you're aware, being in that gym on a Sunday afternoon or Saturday or any time in the afternoon, there's an unbelievable amount of glare that comes in. It's really hard. And I've been saying for years, we need to do something with those windows. And I'm hoping, I don't know if you can find a way or get some quotes to fix those windows, to tint those windows, because it's brutal in there. If you're trying to play basketball or volleyball, that sun is right in your eyes.
No, I agree.
Swear to God, I didn't put them up.
I agree.
What's that?
I've been in those areas many times.
Yeah, me too.
And I know I agree with you 100%. So yeah, they'll come out really quickly. I just asked him to come out last week. He was out in a couple hours and he gave us kind of an updated price, because I was looking at our library area at the high school, and I said, wow, that's, it's a place that they could get to pretty easily if they wanted to. So they gave us kind of an updated price on that, and they did it in like 2 hours. So I can have them in no time to give us a price on that also.
That would be great.
Next would be phases 7 and 8 of our roof replacement of VHS. Currently, these are the last 2 that we know of now that are giving us issues in the music and art wings. There's damage in those areas. And we've got some prices there from Mike's Construction.
Is 7 and 8. So we have one. Oh no, we have up to phase 12, and then
There's no, those areas aren't. Phases 9, 10, 11, 12 aren't issues right now. 7 and 8 are currently have leaks.
Yeah, and the building being, 20+ years old now, we're gonna have issues and need replacement in those phases anyway coming. So not to say we won't want to do them in phases as we go, but these are the 2 areas that are causing us issues at the moment. Okay. Next.
Yeah.
Architectural mapping of the schools. So as in my former position as the SRO, this is one of my pet peeves. That we did not have maps that were accurate to give to our emergency services to get to a spot that we needed to get to. So I went to get a price at New Phase Design Architects. We got this information from Brighton High School to get the price, to get all the plans on a PDF and a CAD plan, so we can, our emergency services able to see these maps.
Yeah, from a schematic point, that's a very valuable tool. Great.
Okay, next on to the high school desks and student chairs. This is something that had been approved previously. It was a phase, and what we're in phase 3 of this.
Phase 3. I believe phase 1, we used town funds, but phase 2, we used ESSER funds. Going back to 3 and 4 and 5.
And how many more need to be replaced?
It's a 5-year,
And this is 3?
this is 3.
Given that, why not accelerate it and do it all?
Morning.
One of the reasons I asked Mary the question about what our low level is and our high level is.
I'd like to keep with the ask that we have in front of us.
I was gonna say, okay.
It's a fair question. I mean, when we talk about the amount of money we're spending, it's another $65,000. And you bang it off and maybe there's economies of scale of placing a larger order.
Has that been looked into at all? When it comes, like, would you get a discount if there was more of a bulk, or it
Probably not.
doesn't really matter?
It's not a huge discount if we did get one at all. And I think one of the issues would be the volume of desks that we would receive and what we would need to get rid of at the same time. So right now we're phasing out the old desks and bringing in the new. So you're talking a lot of desks. It's 150. So if you did the last 3 phases of it, what?
150 per phase, basically, roughly.
So you got another 300. Yeah. 400.
Yeah.
You can get rid of the 450. Right now, so.
A lot. Yeah. Thank you.
Put them in your office.
Yeah.
Got enough room in there, right?
All right, last, the rekeying of the interior of the Petro. The exterior has been done. New England School Services did that job. Their plan is to get us a master key. So eventually, when we phase in the new keying of the schools, we have, we're looking at, I get a price for the exterior of the high school. We'll get a price for the interior of high school. As we go in phases, the master key would be one key that would open every door in the district. So we give them to very few people, but that's their master plan on what they're planning on doing.
How many phases would that take? And what's the total cost to do the entire school district?
I don't have that, but I know the last price I got for the exterior being of the high school was about 10 grand. Around there. Exterior. Interior, obviously, a lot more doors.
You're talking every teacher's door, the doors in between classrooms, closets. We did BMS. I want to say around 60.
I would say 5 to 6 times more, obviously, than the 9,000 that in the high school.
A lot of keys. Does anyone have any other questions on anything?
You want to make the motion on the, actually, we've got a few more items to go over.
Yeah, so
I
we'll-
just have a quick general question. When you look at a 3 or 5 year plan in totality, what is the capital need? Looking out, maybe you haven't gotten to that point, but we're spending 1.2 million. Are we looking at $1.2 million a year? Or are we ahead of the curve on an annual spend?
So being fresh and, in the position, this is something I'm gonna actually be working on now. So I really wouldn't have an answer for you, but I will get it for you.
And I think things that we need to look at as we go forward, there's some concern about some of the boilers at the other schools. So those are something that we need to kind of consider and move forward. Doing some additional work at KMA and replacing windows, because there was some really an awful lot. And so those kinds of things. The roof has come along pretty far at the high school. Hopefully we can stay that way for a while.
We have some issues too that we have to look at, obviously, and with the teacher, we have one of our other boilers is down now too, with these two things. So that right now, that cost is substantial, but at the same point in time, that may need to be replaced also coming down.
I would never say that I go and ask questions that sometimes I don't know the answer to, but on an annualized basis, Mary, is there a range that you think that we would spend on schools regularly over the last 5 years?
I could go back and take a look and tell you what we have historically spent. I don't have that information with me this evening.
I'm just thinking directionally. I mean, we know that from the
But-
police department standpoint that they're generally buying 2 or 3 cruisers. I didn't know if the school department, from a guidance standpoint, we've ever said, it's not uncommon to spend between 800,000 and $1.4 million to give guidance to the school committee, because I think sometimes there's a hesitancy to say, are we asking for too much? And if we've had a trend over 10 years that it averages out to X, that's a good number going forward.
We can certainly look at historical data and have that conversation. We have to remember that we don't always have $1.2 million available in free cash to allocate to a single department. So we really need to focus on prioritizing needs across the town and just setting a budget for one single department. And we have to look at the age of our buildings. It depends on how well we're doing with the upkeep of our existing facilities and equipment, replacing vehicles. So I think there's a lot of factors, and just allocating a budget, a set of dollars may not give us the desired results.
Understood. I mean, from the board of select board, we were to say historically over 10 years that the lowest amount we've come with capital requests is 3 million, and the highest we've come up with is 6. That it would draw my ire, not ire, but my question is, why are we spending only 1.2? Not because it's the school number on a capital cycle.
We can certainly look at it. The other thing is we also have to remember that we've had some major investments in the roof at the high school. And at some point, I'm hoping that the level of spending, the pace of spending for that particular item is going to start to decelerate, and that the improvements and repairs that we're doing are going to get a much longer useful life, so that we can redirect any funds available to other capital needs that they have. So I think we can certainly look at historically what we've spent in various areas.
And then one last school related, that's not in here, the Primavera reconstruction. How does that flush out as far as the timing for what its replacement usage?
I mean, what it's gonna look like after it's taken
Yes.
down. Well, once it's taken down, we're certainly, I talked to Mr. Morano about coming up with a plan to look at better access. I know you'd like to have a wider driveway going in, you'd like to have additional parking, those types of things. as you know, we have a substantial contingency for that associated with that project, because the thought is, if there is, we have an assessment done as far as hazardous waste goes. But if there aren't any needs for utilizing that contingency to address any additional hazardous waste, then we'd be able to utilize that for some of the improvements that we want to do there. Expanding the parking area is one of the big ones. And I know that the driveway access is something else we've talked about. So that's, to be honest with you, that's the hope that they'll need. That the bid came in at, I think, 670. The total project, that, or the amount that we appropriated was 850.
15.
There's a significant contingency in there.
So does that step have to take place so that, well, the project's ongoing instead of coming back to it a year later?
We would have to come back in May if in fact, the entire budget is expended, we'd have to come back in May. And hopefully with some sort of a design plan schematic to show what we're gonna do there, but the demolition includes the removal of the foundation and backfill. So basically what you're gonna have is a clean site, backfilled, and a clean slate to work off of. It's not like they're gonna leave much like Mason, so we have a very clean slate to work off of. All the asphalt in the front will come out. We did say that very back parking lot would stay, because I know you still utilize that. But the goal would be to create as much parking as we need. And I know it's something you gotta take a look at based on staff and events and redoing that entryway. Which will probably be somewhat costly, because it's gonna be, the whole thing will probably have to be paved. But so that would definitely, that's definitely on the radar.
Great. Anything else? Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Do we have any other capital requests that are left to discuss?
So if you look at that summary sheet, so we still have you guys discussed Primavera? Demolition of Primavera?
Well, we just did now, but.
They wanted the bid, so.
Okay, so they're all set with that. All right, so we have, is conservation here to go over the solar tree?
No, they're actually here for the donation of land. So, yeah.
All right, so then the other items that were on the under 50 schedule are HVAC and exterior painting for municipal buildings, which Tim is here to speak about, and once you've already heard those. Has the board already heard those?
I don't think so.
Tim, you want to touch on those, the HVAC for the library and no, the COA?
HVAC for the municipal center, exterior painting of the old town hall, and HVAC at the council on aging.
Second page, right?
Correct.
You know, so we're just trying to maintain the facilities, like we were discussing earlier. The town hall, the town hall that we occupy now is, getting up there. Some of these units are getting tired, and we're starting to sink money into them. They're at the end of their life expectancy, so we're trying to phase in replacing some of them. Actually, 2 of them actually died this summer. The air conditioning end of the units, they're all individual units. One of the units that are going to be replaced is actually the Arcan room, and the other one is our collector treasurer office. So we're trying to just phase in. Every year we're going to have to start replacing these units. So that's what the $25,000 is for, unit 2 and unit 6. Also, we're trying to get out in front of the maintenance on the old town hall, the school administration building, which we want to do the trim on it. Some of the trim is starting to rot away now, and we want to catch it before there's any damage. So we've got some estimates on that, and that's what the $16,000 is for. We do want to phase in the balance of the building, upcoming, and maybe next year or the year after. We want to stay on the front building on the maintenance. So that's those 2 buildings. And then to move on to the library, I'm sorry, the senior center. The senior center is same issue. The units are starting to break down a lot, and they're at the end of their run, and they run constantly. So it's not like your home units that, last a little bit longer. These units are wearing out and we can't be without it. So I'm trying to secure some units. It's really hard to get equipment right now. So these older units, just so you know, it has the old Freon in it as well. So you have to change the heating coils in the heaters as well. It's not just changing the condenser. So, we're just trying to stay in front of it and get it rolling so we can replace it a little bit at a time. So that's about it on those. For the town hall and the senior center. Anybody have any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you.
That's all we needed Tim for, right?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
I did not ask Ann and Cliff to come in to speak to the sonar treatment at Silver Lake. I was gonna speak to that, but Ann's done all the work on that. We've had tremendous success with the new firm that's been in Arcana Park and Silver Lake treating for the weeds. And it's been phenomenal. The beachfront has been just incredible. The improvements down there and the activity that we have has been phenomenal. But what's being recommended at this point in time is a sonar treatment. It's every, I think, 4 or 5 years. And since Ann did all the work for it, she's here. Maybe you can just describe exactly what's involved with that treatment or what it's all about.
Yeah, sure, I'd be happy to do that. So, yes, Dennis is absolutely correct. Every 4 or 5 years, we try to get a really good treatment of the nuisance vegetation at Silver Lake. We do that every 5 years with the treatment of sonar. And once we get all of those weeds died back very well, we're able to maintain the status of the water body with our regular maintenance that we have each year, the chemical treatment, which is a lot less expensive. We don't really like to use the sonar. We don't, because it is an expensive choice, but we find that it's very effective in treating this nuisance vegetation every few years. So I went ahead and reached out to our vendor, who, as I agree with Dennis, has been very, very successful. I think the residents at Silver Lake are very happy also with the treatment of the water body there. And as you know, Silver Lake has been really the prize of our community with the maintenance of the water as the health of the water body over the years. Several water bodies in the area communities have not had the success that Silver Lake has had, and Jenks as well. So with that in mind, we thought it might be a good choice to reach out to our vendor to see what we could to see what the cost would be for the treatment of sonar this year. This would be treatment of the entire 25 acres of the water body. It came up with the price. I don't have that price in front of me.
We've got it.
25, right.
For the finance committee and capital.
We thought it might be a little bit higher than that, so we were pretty happy with that. So that is the gist of it.
So good timing with you being here when this was coming in.
Yes, I guess so.
I would have handled it, but not as well as you.
Thank you, Ann.
Yeah. The next item is the playground upgrades. We recently went from, as you know, with Roland passing, Roland was certified in playground maintenance. I don't know exactly what the certification is, but it means he's got the skill set to visit the playgrounds and recognize when things are becoming obsolete or have some deficiencies. We recently had a review from north to south of all our playground areas, and we are going to look at replacing some of the swing sets, some of the park benches, as well as at the high school fields, the benches that are twisted at the softball fields, the baseball fields. We're replacing all of those. We're actually removing and not replacing a playground set that's down at adjacent to Richardson's Field. It was a unit that was put in probably 20 years ago. It was all chipping and peeling and really in great disrepair, so that's being removed. And we've got a program in place to have the sites visited on an annual basis. They're supposed to be checked weekly, and I know they are, but as far as an in-depth inspection, it should be an annual event, and we're estimating the cost at $45,000 for all the benches and swings. The new swings are going at High Street, at Silver Lake, middle school, number of benches. Interestingly enough, the swing sets that went in at Jenks or Arkham Park and the ones in the outfield at Tuttle Field are the oldest swing sets that we have in town. They were here in the early 1980s and in the best condition and don't need to be replaced.
Yeah.
They're in incredible shape. And you look at the ones that went in the late 90s, I guess different metal or something, but they're all commercial grade. It's just I guess the expression, they don't build them like they used to is
Are we
true.
bothering to touch that playground that's at the outfield in the middle school?
Yes, we went in there and we've
kind
we've
of a
taken
dump.
things out. Well, if you've gone in recently, we've taken
Yeah.
some items out to make it a little simpler. We're not putting anything new in there.
Good.
To answer the question. Yeah, but we are replacing the swing sets at the middle, just the swing sets themselves at the middle school, because some of them are pretty rusty. So that's the playground.
Perfect. All right, so I think that concludes all of our capital requests.
And Vice Chair, entertain motion that we approve the capital requests as presented. In the amount of $3,307,000.
Oh, sorry. If I may, I apologize for the interruption. However, if I may ask you to take the motion for the items as presented and not the specific dollar amount, because what I noticed is that I have a $20,000 item listed on the over 50 chart, which needs to go on the other chart. It's going to change the individual totals. And the vehicles for DPW, we are finalizing the quotes, and if they are rounded by a dollar or so, just want to make sure that you agree with the items.
I added a dollar amount last minute.
Sorry.
I'd like to rephrase the motion, Madam Vice Chair, that we approve the capital expenditures over 50,000 as presented.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 So moved as presented for capital over 50.
Can I ask a general question of Mary? See, Matt,
Of course you can.
procedurally, are we in the correct order in reviewing these? We're reviewing these after FinCom and CIC.
And they take exception to you reviewing them beforehand, because then they feel that, particularly capital, that their review is almost unnecessary. So I know Kelly's sat on the capital improvements committee, and that's been one of the concerns often, that they want to hear these upfront so that you can have the benefit. If they're not recommending something, you would know. So that's kind of their philosophy. You could certainly pull the plug on anything, because the actual article that's presented, the motion is the select board's.
May I add something?
Yeah.
Michael, I think this is part of a bigger conversation than just,
And it does go back to what I would call rubber stamping, because if we were to say, no disrespect, I want to spend $200,000 more because the school department has items they didn't put on the table, it would be our prerogative to do that, as opposed to just saying, yeah, this is what's been put in front of us, so we're not making changes.
Correct.
We should have as much latitude to add as we should to subtract. And none of these groups said, here's my wish list that we're not getting.
well, technically you have that in the
Capital plan.
the big capital plan, but this also goes into the idea that I had at the last meeting of having one capital meeting with everyone present,
Yeah,
and then
no.
that is very, so again, part of a larger
Good,
conversation.
good. Well, good, thank you.
Do I have a motion for our under capital items? We just did it over.
Oh,
Motion to approve as
sorry,
presented.
you're asking.
Motion.
Second.
First by Mr. Connor, second by Ms. Dealer's choice for a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 You want to do the land donations since.
Yes, sir. Mr. and Mrs. Matthews, would you like to come and have a seat in our hot zone here to talk about the land donation for us? We weren't sure if this was going to come through because of the deed, so I'm happy to see you here.
Yes, yes. So, thank you for letting us attend this meeting this evening. Back early in December, Mr. Martin actually reached out to me by telephone, asking if the Conservation Commission would be interested in us receiving a donation of his property on Farm Street. So of course, I had to investigate what that property was, how big it was, and so forth. And I told them, well, we're always interested in accepting properties. Obviously, we have to do our due diligence. We want to make sure that, it's free of encumbrances and the property taxes are paid, and the property is in good shape. So the chairman and I actually took some time to go out there and walk the property. This property is 19.5 acres. It is located on Farm Street. It is east. I'm sorry, south of 495, right? Sorry, east. 495. And it's a very lovely property. The property borders an Army Corps property, which is sort of in concert with our goals as well. It is very well vegetated. There's a small trail that traverses through it. Many wetlands on the property. The Conservation Commission actually did a resource area delineation confirmation several years ago on that. So we actually walked the property and we confirmed that there were a number of resource areas out there. But its habitat value we felt was well worth the donation of accepting this on behalf of the town. The property also not only borders the Army Corps property and Army Corps property, but also is adjacent to the Wall Protection Zone, which was extended. So it's all making sense for environmental reasons to preserve the property and for conservation purposes. And that's what the property owner had approached us with. So I got back to Mr. Martin and I told him, yes, we're very interested. He said, I said, well, what we need now is to get a deed generated. Dennis was very good. We worked with KP Law, Sherman Everett from KP Law, created this quitclaim deed, and Mr. Martin had it signed. There was a little bit of a glitch with the notarizing of the deed, but I contacted him last week and he said, oh, I'm very sorry about that. We'll take care of it. At our Conservation Commission meeting on last Wednesday evening, Conservation Commission voted to accept the deed.
Wonderful. So we have a motion, if anyone.
I have a question. I'm reading the quick claim deed and why there's the street address, the number is missing. It says having an address of Farm Street. We really need a street address, the number, for this to be a valid document.
So again, Mr. Martinez, we actually went through KP Law. It's a little tricky because this is actually a landlocked parcel. So it makes it a little tricky for a street address. I can certainly talk with the assessors and see if we can get a street address. I don't know how you do that with a landlocked
So.
So,
Mr.
is this,
Martin-
well, the way I'm reading this, and Gary Martin and Karen Martin having an address up, do they live on Farm Street? Because
No.
they do not.
No, they don't.
Okay.
Mr. Martinez, if you look at
I'm reading it.
what the wording is for the vote, it actually has shown as lot 107 on land court plan with the certificate on file with the title number and the book page and everything there.
All right, that's fine.
Mhm.
Thank you. I see it.
Mrs. McNulty, would you like to do the honors?
I have a question.
Oh, sure.
What's the tax value?
I have no idea. That's what I'm sitting here thinking too.
Yeah, well, yeah, I want to know why they did
I mean, are
this.
we forfeiting $50,000 a year in tax value for a landlocked property?
Yeah.
That can never get developed.
I'd like to speak to that if I could. All I know is that it's important enough that our administrator paid the remains of the first month of the fourth quarter, the tax, third quarter, second quarter, the taxes, and she paid out of pocket $6.82. So
That's the remains of a tax.
the remains.
I have it.
Yeah.
So it's just under $1,400. So it's $6,400 a year. Am I reading that right? Tax number.
Is that a bill or is that a private card?
First quarter preliminary is 691, so it'll be, yeah, the preliminary is $691, it'll be about $2,800.
What's the value on
If that's a bill, it should be on the left hand. I took the screenshot, right? The value is right here. That's not shown on there.
So apologies for not knowing the answer to this.
Oh, that's okay.
If it's landlocked, they can't do anything with it.
That's correct.
So what do we do with it that they can't, other than take it off the tax roll?
We preserve it as open space.
And what would they do? They would have the right to clear cut it.
Well, that's a complicated question because there's environmental issues there. And so they can't clear cut because there are wetlands on.
Because they would have the right to sell to someone that is not landlocked.
Well,
Is that what they're?
the abutters are town of
So I mean, I
Bellingham.
listened in on your meeting, right? They would have the right, if they wanted to put up a billboard on the highway if it was zoned or got a zoning variance.
That's an interesting question, because about 5 years ago, an attempt was made by the previous owner to do just that.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was, it didn't meet current zoning. And so,
But under that scenario, we were looking at a zoning variance because that was going to give the town $300,000 in revenue for the rental of that lot. Not that one maybe in particular, but another one on 195.
was it this 19-acre lot?
No, I don't think this one in particular. But it does give the latitude to, by us accepting it as conservation, we pass up the opportunity, and conservation is a good thing, but we do pass up the opportunity of generating income along 495 in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, I just want to say that Mr. Martin did approach me and he wanted to preserve his property. And that's the landowner's choice. He didn't want to just donate it to the town of Bellingham, he wanted to preserve the property. And I think anyone who has an asset has the right to figure out how they want to dispose of that asset.
Agree, I'm just devil's advocate, his heirs may feel differently.
It's your job.
Yeah, his heirs may feel. Thanks,
Maybe he doesn't have any heirs.
Maybe he doesn't care what they were saying.
Yeah.
maybe I'm related to him. I don't know.
Doesn't it?
It's gonna remain as a conservation land.
Yes, it would remain as, open space in perpetuity, yes.
So I just asked him, what is the downside
To not to use them as a lease.
to not using it as conservation?
Okay.
Is there anything that we are not thinking about? As I say, as other uses?
Well, once again, I don't mean to reiterate what I just said, but the property owner wants to preserve his property. And based on that, he approached conservation to ask us to preserve his property, and we're very willing to do that. We're asking for your blessing to do that this evening.
Well presented.
Any other questions? Mr. Martinez, any other questions?
Nope, no, I'm in favor.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the recommendation of the Conservation Commission.
Second,
I'm gonna have it.
No, we have to.
We actually have the motion.
Oh, sorry.
Mrs. McNulty, would you like to read the motion?
I happily.
Thank
love to
you.
read the motion. Thank you. Madam Vice Chair. I move to approve the Conservation Commission's acceptance of a gift from Gary and Karen Martin of a parcel of land located on Farm Street shown as lot 107 on Land Court Plan number 13665-X filed with the certificate of title number 116650, book 584 for conservation and passive recreation purposes. Wow, that was a mouthful.
Do I have a second?
second,
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
aye,
Aye. Unanimous.
Hold on.
Thank you.
All
the things conservation.
This is very exciting. This is very exciting. For us.
Right, everything's put off and it's on.
So
Thank you.
Thank you, you too.
All right, so moving right along. We have, I don't have anything on here, reappointment of Dan McLaughlin to the Cultural Council.
Yep. He was up for reappointment. He wants to help and continue on. And so I'm looking to see if you guys will be appointing to the Cultural Council.
So moved.
Where does he
No,
live?
anyone have any, he lives on Lake
He lives
Hiawatha.
in Bellingham.
He lives in town, is currently retired, does a great job helping out at other things around town, so.
Madam Vice Chair, I make a motion that we reappoint Dan McLaughlin to the Cultural Council.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
aye,
Okay. So moved, congratulations, Mr. McLaughlin. Thank you. All right, so we have the warrant to
Oh, yeah, we're
sign.
just signing the warrant tonight, but no vote needed.
No vote needed to sign the warrant. All right, so we can pass that round. Vote on gifts and grants. Has everyone had a chance to look over the gifts and grants? It's not
mhm,
extraordinary. Would anyone like to make the motion?
I move that the Board of Selectmen accept the gifts and grants as listed herein, but said expenditures to be under the direction of the parties noted.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
aye,
Aye. Great. All right,
ARPA.
ARPA projects.
I move the board of selectmen, I move the select board. Say that, we have to say board of selectmen because it's not voted. Yeah, I move that the board of selectmen approve the projects as listed, with the set expenditures be under the direction of the parties noted.
Second.
All those in favor?
aye,
Aye.
We have to do the minutes separately or?
I can bring them together.
Madam Vice Chair, I move that we approve the minutes for September 26th and October 3rd as presented.
Second? Anyone have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful job as always, Ms. Hillary. Thank you. Okay, do we have any old business?
Old and new, but we had to discuss Cedar Hill.
That can be old business.
As I think the school, the resource or safety officer.
Safety officer. And we don't have, I haven't talked with, Officer Padula. I think the other thing on that one, before we do anything with it, I think we're gonna wanna do some sort of, if the board thinks it's something that you wanna take a hard look at, I think we wanna have traffic engineers take a look at it to come up with any recommendations with regard to signage and transition, if it is something the board wants to do. First step might be to bring the neighbors in as well. I don't know.
To
how you
create
feel
it a
about that.
two-way street again?
Yeah, I think that's what Mr. Connell was talking
Yeah.
about.
That's the one plus removal, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree. I think that's a good idea to bring the neighbors in, especially the ones that are on that end of Cedar Hill. Yeah.
We just need to, again, it goes back to the list. That's not.
Be a public hearing or?
No, I think just an agenda item and maybe we send, when we, we'll have Chris Padula take a look at it. But I think what we would do is before we spend money on an engineering, traffic engineers going out there, I think you want to get a flavor for the neighborhood and see if that alters your opinion one way or the other. But what we can do is we can ask the assessors for almost like an abutters list type thing.
Okay.
Or,
Yeah.
and just send something out. I'll draft a letter up and send it out.
I think that makes the most sense
Mhm.
going forward. Okay, new business discussion on DPW replacement.
DPW director replacement, we were talking about the processes for the different department heads. As you know, we have the assessment center firm in place. We awarded that contract. We're gonna have them join us in November to give us, an overview of the process, which will actually start in January. I mean, the center itself, what their plan is to actually run it in the January timeframe. But the first position that will be vacated will be Mr. DiMartino's position, the DPW director. I know we've talked a lot, and Don's looking at last week of January, first week of February. We've talked a lot about the assistant director. It is my appointment, but for a DPW director, for a police chief, fire chief, I think it's important for the board to be involved in those positions. And what I would suggest is, we know that the assistant director, Mr. Jesse Riddell, is very much interested in the position. I've asked him to put together a resume, and if the board would like, we can have, I know that I'm comfortable with him filling that position. I know Don DiMartino strongly recommends him. We will be looking at having a continued relationship with Don on a very part-time basis, but there'll be some things that he can certainly help out enormously with their transition. Don's been with us for 32 years and has an incredible amount of knowledge and wants to stay involved, but he's ready to retire. So if the board would like, and the board, it's two options. One is to go out and see what kind of candidates are out there. The other is to, I think, reward someone that's been doing a good job, and I'd like to have the board hear a presentation from him and consider that appointment.
I mean, I don't know offhand, but it would be nice to see what the org chart looks like and if there's any proposed modifications.
As a result of his.
As a result of that, is there a realignment? Is it just
I
simply?
think that'd be a good thing to talk to him about. We can certainly present it as it exists now. One of the things I feel strongly about is Don has a degree in civil engineering. He's not a professional engineer, but Don does a lot of engineering review. I think as opposed to an assistant director, maybe we hire a highway engineer. Same kind of money, same kind of responsibilities, but maybe with a a little bit different skill set. And that may be a direction that we look at, but
So identifying any gaps that Justin may have and supplement them with that strength.
and I think that's one, and I think Jesse supports that. And thinks that is a direction, obviously, he's worked for other DPWs and has experience out there. But I think that's kind of the first, I don't want to call it the domino to fall, but in essence, it's the first major department head that we're looking at retiring over the next year. There's Don, there's two chiefs, and Betsy Canoia in the assessor's office has also indicated she's going to be retiring next December, January timeframe, and she's made no secret of that, so I don't hesitate to share that publicly. So what I'd like to do is schedule Jesse for the second meeting in November to come in and present himself to the board. I know we've all met him, but I think it'd be an opportunity to talk about the direction of the department, the changes that he thinks are necessary down there, and what the direction is, and at that point in time, if we feel that he's the right choice to lead that department, I think we go ahead and make that appointment and formally begin that process.
So is the hope to maybe have this all in play before the end of the year? So that we can actually have, if Dawn's thinking the last week of January, first week of February, or do you want to have it closer to the beginning of December?
I think he would actually assume the position with Dawn's retirement, because he's working every day with Dawn. As you know, Dawn's been bringing him to all the present. Dawn's been including him on everything. I don't get an email from Dawn without Jesse being copied on it. So I know he's heavily involved in the department. So I don't think there's a need for him to assume the responsibilities until Dawn's retirement. But I think what we need to do is work on Jesse's replacement if in fact we are going to be promoting him to that position.
Most municipal workers get all of their vacation as of July 1. Right? So is it Dawn's intention to leave on the 28th or leave 5 weeks?
I don't have a firm date on that right now. But we can get that together. I know Dawn takes a lot of pride in the department in his years here, and he wants to see a very successful.
And the reason I asked that, if you look at February 28th,
January, yeah.
January, I mean, if you add 5 weeks, where is Jesse going to be in the budget process? Because Dawn's leaving in the middle of it.
Yep, and Dawn will continue to be, as I say, involved in a consulting role to assist with those types of things. Not to the extent Jim's attending, every planning board meeting, every zoning board meeting, and you're limited with the amount of money you can earn on an annual basis working for their municipality. It's the difference between what your pension is and what you would be, what your income salary would have been. So if you're retiring, if your salary, make it simple, if your salary is $100,000 and you're retiring 80%, it's 80%. All you can earn on an annual basis is $20,000. The first year, the second year, it's that difference plus $15,000. So that's the max. So obviously it wouldn't be.
Sign him to a new contract for 20,000 last year, right?
John's, yeah, it's less. So anyway, if that's good with the board, we'll start that, we'll put the wheels in motion on that.
So that would be the November 21st.
Yeah, so you want the second meeting?
Second meeting, November.
Okay.
And the only other thing I had for tonight was everyone saw the schedule. Verizon had the polls out. We got the schedule from Walsh. It looks like I was surprised at the amount of work that they think they're going to be able to get done. They gave us a preliminary schedule, but it's better than we'll see you in the spring. They're going to be doing a fair amount of work, and in the spring, completing the paving. You don't want major paving work going on in late November, December anyway, because of the temperatures. So I think, as difficult as it was getting through the whole utility pole replacement issue, I think it's positive that they are going to get back out here this fall. At least I know I shared the email with everyone. They're planning on getting out here to get some of the work done. That's all that I had.
Before we've satisfied our agenda, I just wanted to put one more thing out there. Dennis and I on Friday attended a dedication at the police station that was quite moving for those of us who were there. Officer Melanson worked very hard with the World Trade Center artifact group and secured an actual artifact from the World Trade Center, which is now part of a memorial that is for 9/11 that is out in front of the police station. So I would encourage anyone to go and take a look at it. You kind of think of, oh, the 9/11 memorial, but then when you go there and you actually see the piece of the World Trade Center, the metal right there on the monument, it kind of brings a whole different feel and view to things. So to all the members of the police department and Officer Melanson for all of his work on that, just wanted to recognize that because I thought it was a very moving thing on Friday. They did a great job.
No update on the police contract, but we have had positive developments and hopefully we'll be announcing a settlement soon. Not to tip my hand, but I'm optimistic. My nature, as you know.
Yeah.
Especially on
Mr. Glass
developments.
half full.
Yep.
Wonderful. Well, having satisfied our agenda at 8:35, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Second,
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
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 Feel better,
Thank you.
Don.
Feel better,
Have a good
Don.